on Instagram. What's up, Phoebe? What's up, Lori? What's up, Justin? We're live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. All kinds of live stuff. Jenn Hernandez, how are you? I see you. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome to my neighbor, Person Empowerment. What's up, Vanessa? How are you? Diana? All right, we got a request here. Go live. Let's do it. Okay, you are logged on to the 20-minute showdown. This is two entrepreneurs back and forth for about 20 minutes, 3 questions each. I don't know what she's going to ask me. She doesn't know what I'm going to ask her, and that's what makes it fun. What's up, Jenn? How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm awesome. We've got Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, Instagram Live, all the lives. And we got people logging in from what's up, Justin? How are you? Toya, tell us where you're logging in from. Let us know. What do you do for a living? Where are you logging in from? What city? Not you, Jenn, but the rest of these people. Light us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. You are logged into the 20-minute showdown, episode 24, 2 entrepreneurs, 20 minutes, 3 questions each, back and forth. I don't know what she's going to ask me. She doesn't know what I'm going to ask her, and that's what's going to make it fun. So, Jenn, if you want to, I'd love to hear your story. We got Amsterdam in the house, Northern California in the house. I'd love to hear your story. Tell everyone your story. Take a couple minutes here. Who is Jenn Hernandez?
Yes. So I'm just going to take you back a little bit. I didn't take the traditional ways of life. I was running away by the time I was 13, kicked out of high school, straight F sophomore year, went to an alternative school. I was able to graduate through that program. And shortly after graduation, I found my family hanging out on the streets of Chicago with gangs. Found myself homeless from 17 to 19. At 19, getting pregnant with my daughter, which was my greatest blessing ever. Can you hear me? Oh, I'm sorry. Greatest blessing ever. And that was to getting pregnant was I was going to end up dead or in jail. So the life that I was living. Are you okay? Can you hear me?
Jenn, we got a Wi-Fi issue on Instagram. No. I think we can hear you on the Facebook Live, but it's the Instagram on the cell phone. It looks like we got a bad connection there. So
let me see.
We might, and if so, we might have to pull off from Instagram and just do the live on here. Will that still work? It will still work, won't it? Okay, so let's give it a second here.
Do you want me to disconnect from my Wi-Fi or maybe try that?
On your cell phone? Yes, give that a try. Let's see what happens. And everybody else, thank you so much. We're on episode 24, 20-minute showdown. We're going to have Jenn just reconnect on Instagram. It looks like we got a good connection here on StreamYard, which is awesome. We can see you fine. We can talk to you fine. But we're gonna get you reconnected here on Instagram before we do this again. Oh, there we go. Jenn, give me a test on Instagram here.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Okay, back. Okay, so this was you started breaking up really early on in the story. It doesn't hurt for you just to give it a go again. Go for it.
Yeah, so I didn't take the traditional ways of life. I was running away by the time I was 13, kicked out of high school, sophomore year. My parents sent me to inpatient facilities to try to save me from myself, but there was no saving me. It was only when I decided to. So kicked out of high school, went to an alternative program, ended up finding my family hanging out on the streets of Chicago with gangs. Shortly after high school, 17, kicked out homeless between 17 and 19 off and on. At 19, I got pregnant with my daughter, which was truly my blessing because the life I was living was going to end me up dead or in jail. So I named her Destiny because she was truly my destiny. Moved out of the neighborhood and really started to work and dream. And she became my reason for living. You know, I really had no care before. And I remember living in a 2-bedroom apartment and dreaming about the life that I wanted to live. And just like 3 years later, I had everything that I had dreamed of. Became pretty successful in the mortgage industry. But then, of course, we had the crash in 2008 and I lost everything. Also giving birth to twins in 2006. So two more kids added to the family. So I became a mom of 4. And right before then the crash came in 2008, we lost everything and I had to rebuild. Ended up getting divorced at that time because I figured I was losing everything. It was time to completely restart. I wasn't happy and needed to, find that happiness for myself and really start to learn how to love me. So started investing in myself in 2011. Lost my $500,000 house, ended up living in a 2-bedroom apartment, worked my way back up in the mortgage business. And in 2021, I personally closed over 65 million in production.
Whoa!
My branch closing over 180 million and becoming number 1 and number 2 in the state of Illinois for FHA lending, top 1% in the country. So that's a comeback story.
That's what I'm talking about. And you're a recent new author.
Yes, finally finished my book in 2022. So that is a blessing. And it will be out in January. We are on pre-sale right now on Amazon.
What a story. Like, this is a story that's so good, it doesn't even need questions. Well, I mean, you could go questions into the story, but like, what a freaking awesome story. So many people, they have a story of trials and tribulations, but man, you talk about two extremes of polarity of where you started and where you are now. Before we dive into the questions, guys, let me tell you my quick backstory. Nick from Michigan, super blue collar, middle class upbringing. I found entrepreneurship at 18 years old through the direct sales networking industry. Became a millionaire in the industry at 25. Company went out of business. I bought the assets of the company. I created a company called Mysalis. It had a 15-year run. Most famous for the Body by Body 90-day challenge. 3.5 million customers, 19 countries, 2.2 billion in sales. The highest of all highs on the journey, the lowest of all lows, peaks and valleys, everything in between. I currently have a technology platform that connects real estate agents and mortgage professionals to the top solar installers nationwide and does a commission split for them. So let's talk about episode 24. I'm going to hit Jenn out of the gates here. Let's rock. How did your very rough upbringing prepare you for the ups and downs and the difficulties of entrepreneurship? How did, being near homeless, how did running away at 13, how did being a teen mom, how did being, gang affiliated, how did those things prepare you to be an entrepreneur today?
Because I constantly was in like a survival mode. And I always had to craft solutions of how to get out of that or get ahead or what was next. Or even it could even been like something on the street life. Like you always have to be thinking of like what your next move is. And also like how you can get out of a situation you put yourself in. So it's that strategic thinking that like my mind just always thought outside of the box. Like there's no limits, I think a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen over the years, like they get so complacent and they believe like they're the greatest. And they're like, oh no, this doesn't work. Well, that's because they stopped thinking outside of the box. Like I never, ever stop thinking outside of the box. And I think I can craft a solution for everything. And it's because of the life that I've lived that I believe that. So
what was one of the most difficult situations you ever found yourself in?
Can you hear me?
In as a teen, and then let's talk about then as an entrepreneur.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yes. What was one of the most difficult situations you ever found yourself in as a teen?
Really the homelessness, people don't realize, like, it's funny because even me myself, like, I looked at people that are, people look at people that are homeless and they're like, well, why can't they just get a job and like start working? And the problem is if you don't know where you're going to lay your head, you just can't, well, it's almost like you can't function. I was paralyzed at that time. So I was like so stuck and couldn't move forward because I just didn't know from day to day where I was going to sleep. And it was just such an unstable time that I couldn't do anything that was stable for me until I had a stable place to lay my head. So I think that is definitely the most difficult. And as an adult, you wanted that too?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, yeah.
As an entrepreneur, the industry that I'm in is mortgage. So I'm 100% commission. And, rebuilding and living, raising 4 kids on my own as a single mom and the only parent, trying to figure out how I'm negative in the bank, payday loan to keep the lights on. And trying to get out of that was by far one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in life. And it's funny because I found myself, digging my hole deeper, crying, why me? Why me? Why do I, like, I'm such a good person. Why do I have to go through all of this in life? And the truth was, as soon as I learned how to figure out how to shut off that why me and say, oh, no, not me. That's not my story. And this is not where I end. And I basically had to ignore the fact that I was so broke and so negative and so had no idea how I was going to pay the bills or feed the kids or anything like that. And I had to just smile and pretend that was not my story. And so that's what I will say to people who are living in a mode where they don't really want to be, or maybe stuck in survival mode. The greatest thing you could ever do for yourself is start dreaming and seeing the life that you want and pretend that that is not your story. And it's funny, my daughter's an actress and she came home and beat herself up one day after an audition. I'm like, you don't even know if you got the call back. And she's like, yeah, but I just didn't feel good about it. I said, but you did the best you could do. You just like canceled your blessing before the blessing came. And the next day she got the call back. She's like, what do you want me to do? Lie to myself? I'm like, absolutely. What do you think I'm doing? I'm lying to myself every day and telling myself that I'm not as broke as I am. If that's what you want to call it, yes, lie to yourself. And the next day she got the call back and she'll never do that again. So,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there were so many awesome nuggets that you just laid out for everybody right there. I'm going to ask anyone that's watching this in the comments side, is there any commission-only parents out there? Anyone out there that's a parent that lives solely off commissions? Sound off in the chat box there if you're a commission-only parent out there. We'd love to see who you are. Great layers of content there. You went all the way from homeless teen all the way to giving advice as a mom. So I'm gonna pause there. I'm ready for question number 1. Hit me.
Okay. I need to know, what was the most valuable lesson that life has taught you?
Ooh, the most valuable lesson that life has ever taught me. And what I usually do when somebody gives me the most question, I'll answer with a one of. Because if I don't have the exact answer at that moment, I might not answer it with the most. I might there might be something bigger and badder. I'll go down a rabbit hole. So I'm going to go with, what are one of the most valuable lessons that I was ever taught? And early on, it's a simple one. It's almost kind of silly how it was triggered, but it had such a massive ripple effect throughout my life, which is the movie Rudy. The movie Rudy, which was the movie about a kid named Rudy Rudiger. I watched it when I was like a junior in high school. So some of you guys might remember that movie from like 1995 or something like that. And it's about this kid who's really tiny in stature, but just has this no quit, unforgiving, just drive, nonstop desire to play football for Notre Dame. And he weighs like 150 pounds and he's like 5'8". And he actually makes finally the practice squad, and he just gets the shit kicked out of him every year in, year out. And then finally at the end of the movie, to my understanding, this is a historical fact, he makes it to one play. He gets to do one play, and he makes a one play in his whole college career. And, like all of his teammates were like, hey, we're before that game, they weren't going to let him play because he's never played in a game. He's just been a practice squad, practice dummy. And all of the starters were like, hey, you have to let him play. You have to let him play. So moral of that story is, I developed a mentality at the age of 15 that everything in life was mental, or a byproduct of your mindset. And, there was no limit to how far you could go, how hard you could go, how hard you could push. And I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship at that time. So it was only about sports for me at that time. So I would push harder than anybody else. I would practice harder than anybody else. I would run harder than anybody else. I would go as far as I could take it. And that was, for me, that was a big shift. But when I found entrepreneurship, it was easy just to take everything that I put into sports and say, wait, everything is just mindset, overcoming fear, talking to more people, getting more rejection, moving out to California by myself, building a team, and just leading and not worrying about what anyone's going to say, what anyone's going to think. I don't care about the objections. I don't care about the dream stealers. All of that was triggered from that lesson from that movie. In fact, I even did a speech in my speech class, I think it was junior, senior year, which was everything in life was mindset. So all that triggered from that movie. Is that a good one?
Yes. So the most valuable lesson that life has taught you is to control your thoughts, and you are in control of everything.
Well, your mindset has major influence over where you can go, and what you think is failure, what you think is rejection, and what you think is pain. So the physical side of it, but also then the non-physical side of it in business is a byproduct of how we're perceiving it, how we're processing it. It's not reality, right? We have so much more drive in us, so much more will inside of us, so much willpower, right? So much more heart and guts if we'll just believe that anything's possible.
Got it. Good.
So yeah. So when I was going back in chronological order, that's definitely the starting point, one of the early starting points of like a major lesson for me. So it started in sports, and I played it over into entrepreneurship. Okay, I like that. That was a great question. Thank you for that. I'm going to hit you with number two. Number two is let's talk about being a mompreneur. What is the best and what is the most difficult part? So two-part question. Best parts of being a mompreneur, business owner, sales professional, mom of 4 or 5?
4.
4. And what's the most difficult part of being a top performer and a mom of 4?
Okay. So the best part is that I'm teaching them all of my traits, right? They hear me, they see how hard I work, they see the work that I do on my mindset, on my healing, on my growth, on everything, because, I just like you try to involve them, involve the kids, and work through the different things with them, like you do, like I see you do with Gia and them all Nicholas, all the time. So I try to break down like something that happened to them and go through like, well, why did this happen and how could we have done it better? Like my son's already tried like 5 different business ventures, and I'm like, so why did we fail? So why, and we break it down so that way he can grow, because it's that failure that's going to eventually rise through to his greatness. So that's the best part of it, is that they get to see that. And then also, the reward of it, right, is that we get to take the vacations and do the things and live the lifestyle. And so they have that drive to want in life instead of staying still. So I think a lot of people get stuck and can't see outside the box because they've never been outside of the box. So I think that that's very important for anyone to do, is to make sure you travel with your kids and they see that there's a huge world out there. On the flip side of it,
yeah,
there's never enough time in the day and you never can do everything right. And I was a single parent. So when I got divorced in the crash, which was 2011, my twins were 4 years old and my 2 oldest were going into high school. So 8th grade and freshman year in high school. So by far, like the most difficult time. And the problem with being everything is that you can never do enough. So like me and my daughter are actually working through some of her triggers. My oldest is 25 and I'm sorry, 26, but my daughter's 25 and she was my firstborn. And I also raised my stepson since he was 4. So he's 26, but my daughter and me are working through some of the triggers that she has because of me, because of my work ethic. When I try to push her as far as
that's
like stay focused, you need to work harder, grind right now in your 20s so you can do whatever in your 30s. And it literally sets her off because she feels like I worked so hard that it took away from my time with her. So, I have to now go back and like repair some of the damage that I caused being who I am, and the life that I had to live. And another thing is that I have a very big servant-driven heart. So I was constantly helping others or taking in other kids and raising other kids on top of it. And where like other kids were living with us. And so when it comes to like my philanthropy side of things, it's also a trigger for her because she felt like she lost me there too. And they lost some of me. So, we do have to recognize that we are 100% responsible for like all that we call in. So if we're triggering our children, we got to dig and see why. What did we do there? Yeah. Because the triggers are from our trauma. So,
well, I think if you have to choose between, a mom that worked her ass off and made it big and showed the lessons of hard work, desire, achievements, and also contribution, giving back, taking in other children, philanthropy, versus the other side, which could be laziness, mediocre or apathetic, or maybe didn't work on themselves. Yeah, I think most people would choose the one that worked too hard. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself.
I'm not hard on myself, but I have to challenge you right there, because the problem is they don't know the other side, so they can't even see that. Like they didn't have the mom that was that, so
they will as soon as they have a kid.
I know. Right. Oh, I know that's going to flip, because the minute I had a kid, I was like, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not mean any of that.
What about the other parents watching this right there? Throw something in the comments. What are some of the best things about you being an entrepreneur and a parent, being a sales professional and a parent? What is it like for you, or what have you experienced, or what are some of the joys of being able to marry those two worlds together? Jenn, you had talked about the reward, right? Bringing your kids as a part of the reward. Where's somewhere you've been able to take your kids on your way to your success?
Bahamas. I haven't done Europe or anything like that. Bahamas. I mean, they've been everywhere. Jamaica, Bahamas, cruises. I mean, we owned a place in Wisconsin Dells, which is like the largest water park. So we owned that. We had that for 10 years growing up. So that was their vacation home. So they've had a lot.
Tough life compared to your running away from 13 and homeless. So
Right.
you've exactly. Done well. You've done well, Mom. You've done well. Okay, I'm ready for question number 2. Hit me.
All right. Can you give an example of a hardship that you had in life that led you to like ultimate success? So I feel and I believe from my life, every time the whole world comes in on me and I feel like I'm dying, it's like the end of the world. And then it's like I break through to a heightened level of success.
Sure.
Have you had that?
Yeah. And I can think of this is an easy one to think about. The first big one for me was in my first company. I was the youngest top producer of the company, and I had developed a lot of relationships with the owners, etc. And one day, 2 of the owners of the company, there's 4 owners, but these were the 2 primary owners. The 2 owners decided to leave and start a new company. And the guy who was my mentor or my upline, the guy who signed me up in network marketing and, kind of got me to my first events and paid for my event tickets and fed me cheeseburgers when I was 18 and broke. He left, and then they all started calling my whole team. So what happened is within about a couple days, I had lost 8 or 9 of my top 11 performers in my entire organization. And they were all either my best friends growing up with, or my child, or my roommates currently, like in the house, or like it was a mess. And within a couple days, I had lost 8 of my top 11, and all of them were best friends, brothers, grew up like high school buddies, elementary buddies, and yeah, they had convinced these guys, you're living in Nick's shadow. We're going to start a new company, and in the new company, you're going to be the new Nick, and Nick's holding you back, and all the bullshit that people lie in network marketing, try to get you to switch companies and feed you all the BS. And you're going to be the primary leader here. And, and all of them went on to fail. And the couple that stayed back with me all made millions and millions of dollars, Blake Mullen being one of them. So Blake made tens of millions of dollars. He was one of the 3 that stayed. And what it taught me, I remember pulling the 3 of them in a room, And I said, our team will never follow anyone else again but us. So it was a crash course in real leadership, because we had always just promoted them as the leaders and just said, hey, follow them. And that's what we were taught. Like, they're the leaders and we're just there to bring people. And at that completely backfired, because we had none of the influence, because they ended up all following them to the next company, right off the cliff. And I said to the guys in the room, I said, from this point forward, our people will never follow anyone else again but us. And that's how a real leader was born overnight, out of destruction of my entire organization in 48 hours.
So I believe, and I'm sure you believe as well. So when the whole world feels like it's crumbling in on us and we're like going to die, that's us being pushed through to our next level of success that we have yet to hit. Correct?
Well, you only have two choices, right? It's either you have the ability to frame it as there's something amazing around the other corner, and this is forcing us to grow and get better, improve, or the other side of this, which is, this is woe is me, and I'm so unlucky, and bad things happen to me and nobody else. Right? So you can only be on one side, on one side of that story. You got to choose one of those sides, and you've done a great job of changing your mindset so that you come out to the other side of temporary setbacks with greater outcomes, right? And anytime I've had major setbacks, I always hold steadfast in the belief that it's that something's greater that's going to happen on the other end of that, and that might not happen for 5 or 10 years later, right? So I hold steadfast that belief.
Amazing.
All right, let's take it home. Last question I have for you. As a top performing female, new author, mentor to many, if you could give 2 pieces of the greatest advice to the teenage you who had ran away from home at 13 and saw all of the troubles that you saw, what would be some of those great pieces of advice that you could go back in time and give teenage you?
Number 1, no one can stop me but me, which is the name of my book for that reason, because you are in control of all that you bring into your life. And I 100% believe that. So if you feed the negativity, you will bring more of that. And so you need to feed what you want, not what you don't. Starve what you want to die. And that's how it goes. So that will be first and foremost. And then I would say the other thing is forgive super, super quick.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. Forgive quickly. Now, that does not mean allow them back to do it again. It just means you having anger towards someone is keeping you in a cage and a prisoner to that person who is no longer thinking about you. So the faster you can move on from that and forgive that person for whatever they have done to wrong you, they're not affecting you anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to allow them back in. I will say that when you go through your healing journey, people will come back in with, because you will have healed, the trauma that they may have caused you, and they're not going to change. You can't expect other people to change. You can just work on you. And because you become in a better place, it's not going to be the same for you any longer. So I would say.
Well said. I'm going to say it back to everybody. Her 2 great pieces of advice to the younger her would be, no one can stop you but you. And number 2, forgive quickly. Nobody's actually ever in 24 episodes given the advice of forgive quickly. Well done. Well done. Beautifully stated. By the way, anyone who's watching, I see different comments on my StreamYard here. Feel free on Instagram. Participate. Give me something in the comments. what's one thing you would tell your younger self? If you go back in time, what's one thing you would tell your younger self? Drop it in the comments. Jenn, hit me with question number 3.
Okay. So, do you still get triggered? And what are some of your major triggers? That's a good one.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for sure, I definitely still get triggered. But not. I'm Italian and Sicilian Italian, so I've always been fast in reaction,
Me too.
but also very fast to let go of that, right? And just move on, right? But now with kids, it's much less and even much quicker to move on. So when you said what does, I definitely get triggered if I feel either taken for granted, meaning constantly pouring into, and that used to actually trigger me to want to tell that person how much they're taking for granted. Now, if I feel that, I just know that's on me, and I need to pull back from how much I'm pouring in. It's not my job to go try to make that person feel bad. So I've grown out of the state where I want to make sure I tell them how much they're taking, me for granted. So, and a lot of it's an interesting question because I'm doing a lot of self-analysis. A lot of the stuff that used to trigger me, I used to feel like I had to communicate to that person. Now I don't communicate it. Where I'm like, what's the real point in me making that person feel bad, or making that person feel guilty, or making that person, what's the real point in that? Are they going to change? I'm then trying to gain something out of it. So I think that's how I've changed in how I'm triggered, is I no longer go make a point out of it to make sure I explain it to that person so they can feel bad too. I'm not sure if I answered the question the best way possible. Go
No,
ahead.
you did. Yeah, you definitely did. No, I just realized that one of my major triggers was when I felt not good enough. And I just was able to heal the trauma over the last couple of years. And I have 4 kids that are like almost 18, 25, 26, and 17-year-old twins. And the truth is I just figured this out. And the trauma came from my father kind of made me feel like that as a child. So like I didn't understand why I would literally attack people when I felt like that. And even my kids got some of that. And I had to like come back and apologize to them because I didn't know. And when you don't know where it comes from, we're not able to like, break through it. And now that I know where it comes from, it doesn't affect me the same anymore. So I love that you shared that. And that's great. And all we could do is get better. But yeah, I mean, I'm not triggered at all. Like now I just know when I feel like that, I'm not really honoring myself, because who am I surrounding myself with that's treating me like that? And when did I let them think that that was okay? Because that's not okay, so.
Well, thank you for the amazing questions. I'm going to ask you one more bonus question just because we're always over in time. So what does it matter? Tell me, for anyone out there who wants to make it as a top sales professional and a sales leader, those are 2 things that you've really kicked ass at: sales leadership, sales professional. You've made millions of dollars. What are 3 must-have attributes and or skills, must-have characteristics, attributes, or skills if they're going to make millions as a sales professional or as a sales leader? What are they? Ready? Fire.
Mindset, no limits, no limitation on what you can do. If you hit, the sky is the limit. The fortune is in the follow-up for sure. And one more, great. Niche yourself. What are you great at and why? And if you can even take it one step further and combine it with your purpose or passion in life, for me, it's giving back. So the more I do, the more change I create, the more lives I impact. So if you can do that, you are going to see the most heightened level of success you've ever had in your life. And that's what I believe.
Well put. I'm going to go back to fortunes in the follow-up for a second, only because no one has ever said it. So I always ask people in the bonus question, what's a couple different characteristics? How has following up helped you financially in sales? You said fortunate to follow up, and you made it the number 2 thing. Go deeper there.
Yeah. So anybody who studied like Grant Cardone or see how he does, I think he hits people 50 times or gets 50 no's before he ever gets done. You know, people, it might not be now, but you don't know what's happening in their life, that their circumstances might change, and now they might want to purchase, or they might want to refi, or they might want to do something. So you have to continue to follow up. They are not, they're a warm lead. They're not cold. Like, they know who you are. You've been in front of them. It's a warm lead. You just don't, you have to keep following up. You don't know when the time will be right for them.
I think everybody needs to hear that, because I think a lot of people don't follow up enough, including me. Buy the book. What is your website they can pre-buy the book at?
It's on Amazon. It's No One Can Stop Me But Me. And you can follow me on Instagram at IamJennHernandez.com. And also, Nick, I have something for you. So I don't know if you know this or not, but today, 7 years ago, I was at your house in Miami at your millionaire immersion. And so
I had no idea that was the day.
Yes, I think it was the last day when we had our roundtable was today, because it was the day after my birthday. So,
well, happy belated birthday,
happy
anniversary, and happy book launch. No One Can Stop Me But Me. Jennifer Hernandez. I'm typing it in right now in the chat box over here. And I want all of you guys to go to Amazon and buy her book. Her story is phenomenal. Teenage mom, teen runaway, homeless, gang affiliated, teen mom, multimillionaire, author, kick-ass mama of 4. Thank you so much for having us on. Episode 24, we are wrapped. Goodbye, everybody. And then I'm still on here. We got to end this one over here. Jen, I'm going to keep you on. I'm going to end the stream. 3, 2.